Hi, I'm Catherine, and these are all the books that I've read so far this year, 2025. So we're going to start out with some numbers. So in total, I read 21 books in the months of January, February, March. To break it down a little bit, in January I read 6 books. I read 1,930 pages, and 2 of those were nonfiction, 4 were fiction. I read 4 audiobooks and 2 print books, and my average rating was 4 stars. February I read 7 books. I read 2,244 pages, 1 nonfiction and 6 fiction, so we're seeing a theme here. And I read 3 audiobooks, 3 print, and 1 digital. And my average rating was 4.14 stars. In March, I read 8 books. I read 2,825 pages, 2 nonfiction, 6 fiction. Breakdown on that was 3 digital, 3 audio, and then 2 print. And I had an average rating of 4.25 stars. To caveat all this, I am generally a very high grader in terms of rating books. So you'll very seldom find that I rank a book anything below 3 stars. It's gotta be really bad to warrant that from me. Maybe I should be harsher. I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. So I will also, in addition to all these numbers, I'd like to say I bought only 1 book this year so far, except for after April, everything went to shit. But I bought Dead Weight by Emmeline Klein. There you can see it. Emmeline Klein. I haven't finished reading this yet, and I'm probably going to restart it, to be honest, because it's been a minute. I was reading it on Libby, and then it expired, and then the audiobook, not the audiobook, but the ebook license that the library had expired, and so I had to buy it because it was so good, and I was going to buy it anyway, but I bought it much quicker than I expected. So I'm going to be reading this in the next quarter. I'm very excited about it. But everything I actually read these last 3 months is from the library, or it's an e-arc. Also, I have my laptop down here in my lap. So, if you see me looking down, that's why. We're going to start off with January, a very good place to start. And the first book that I read was Book and Dagger by Elise Graham. This was a fascinating nonfiction book about how librarians and academics were like the OG spies of World War II. So America, in America specifically, America didn't really have an intelligence agency or organization prior to World War II, because they were not very demure of us to be reading another gentleman's mail. But quickly they realized that that's not going to work, that's not feasible in this modern world, and we're going to have to get going. So this is about spy school is featured in this pretty heavily. That's a whole section. And then the different techniques they used, how they gathered people. It was really interesting. Next, I read A Star for Mrs. Blake by April Smith. This I read so fast. So I work at the library, and I was covering a book club for one of my coworkers who was out, and I had to read it within 3 days. So I put that audiobook on, and I was double timing. I mean, I normally do double speed, but this it had an urgency to it that I had not previously heretofore experienced. And so it's about Gold Star mothers who were sent to France to see their dead sons' tombstones. It was super interesting, super sad, and about a period of history and a thing of history that I had literally never heard about. I was pleasantly surprised by this one. So if you haven't read it, if you're interested in World War One, it's World War One. So it's set after World War One, and it's about how they have lost their sons over in France, and I guess they didn't ship the bodies back, they buried them in France. So it was a very interesting a historical premise for a book. Next, I read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is not one of my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid books, but it was still excellent. We read this one for a book club that I run at the library, and we had an excellent discussion about it. Next, Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent by Judi Dench and Brandon O'Hay. So this is it's basically an interview between Brandon and Judy, and it's basically her discussing every Shakespeare role she's ever played, and it was really good. It was very funny and lovely, and it was really good for fans of Judi Dench and fans of Shakespeare. Next, I read Girl with the Pearl Earring by Tracy Chevalier. This was a super cool and quick read, imagining the girl behind the girl with the pearl earring painting. And finally, for January, I read El Club de Comics de Supergatito, and that was by Dave Pilkey. It was like a translation. This was a children's graphic novel that I read for Spanish practice, and I won't lie to you, I found reading this agonizing. I'm just not the audience for it, and my Spanish was maybe not where I thought it was. So, alas, it is what it is. Next, I read The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This is the lowest I've rated a book in a long time. This was 2 stars. And the main character was just... So basically the premise is that this guy marries this like wood sculptor, and his daughter are living on this houseboat, and then suddenly everything goes to shit, and she is like, he gives her this paper and it says protect her on it, and the whole premise of the book is that she has to protect his daughter while he is in trouble for possible fraud, embezzlement, like all kinds of stuff. And so the main character was just not nearly mad enough at her husband, in my humble opinion. Spoilers, I'll put my arms down when we're done. There was just this twist with this crime family at the end, and it was like supposed to be the resolution, and it truly, to me, was like not nearly as interesting as it would have been if it had been the husband's fault. I read this for my personal book club, the one that I go to outside of work, and we ripped this shit apart. It was brutal. So, The Mountain Sing by Nguyen Phan Khai Mai. This book was devastating. So I'm gonna pull up the names here, so I don't mess them up, because it's been a while since I read this. But this is a multi-generational story of the Tran family set against the backdrop of the Vietnam War. And so Tran Dia Lan flees her family farm with her 6 children during the land reform as the communist government rose in the north of Vietnam. And then years later in Hanoi, her young granddaughter Huang comes of age as her parents and uncles head off down the Ho Chi Minh Trail to fight in a conflict that is just so devastating. The U.S.'s involvement in the Vietnam War is something that I feel like gets swept under the rug a lot, and at least it was in my experience growing up with my education, and this book sheds such an unflinching light on the realities of both that conflict and the land reform during the communist government. So it was, if you have any interest in Vietnam, or if you're just a casual historical fiction person, I would really read it. While Justice Sleeps by Stacey Abrams. Yes, that's Stacey Abrams. I picked this book for the book club that I run at work, and it was a solid 3 stars for me. There was this whole thing with there was like a Indian genetics biotech firm, and like a court case, and a Supreme Court justice who was like in a coma, and it was very complex, and there was this chess metaphor that I could not get my head around, man. And I was like so convinced that this chess metaphor was like the key to the book. And I've never played frickin' chess. So it turns out it wasn't the key to the book, and I was just being really narrow-minded. But I don't know if I recommend this one. I don't think I do. The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love, India Holton. A sweet little romance set in this magical world that had fascinating depth to it in terms of the birds, hence the Ornithologist's Guide to Love. And it was academic acquaintances to friends to lovers, and the audiobook specifically was quite good. Next, I read Except for Palestine, The Limits of Progressive Politics by Mark Lamont Hill and Mitchell Plitnick. This kind of argues that progressives and liberals who oppose regressive policy, must extend these core principles to the oppression of Palestinian people. I'm reading directly from the Goodreads note here. The authors take seriously the political concerns and well-being of both Israelis and Palestinians, and they also unravel the conflation of advocacy for Palestinian rights with anti-Semitism and hatred of Israel. I really recommend this to anyone who has a hard time grasping the Israel-Palestine thing. It really clarified things for me, and it settled me in my beliefs a little more, I think. Having the knowledge and the background really did. What Lies in the Woods, Kate Alice Marshall. Oh my gosh, this was one of my favorite books of the year so far. Basically, there are these three girls, and the summer that they're 11, one of the girls is attacked by the serial killer, and he disfigures her, and he goes to prison, and years and years later, he dies of cancer in prison, and the three girls reunite, and then everything goes to shit, and it's just wild. The twist in this, I can't tell you what the twist is because I would ruin it, but it was so good. I had chills. Finally, in the month of February, I read 12th Night by Alexene Farrol Follmuth. This book single-handedly got me to pick up Baldur's Gate 3 after I've been putting it off for a year. So it's written under Olivia Blake's real name. It's one of her YA books. I can't sum it up right now because my words have stopped working, but I will read you the summary really quick. Viola Reyes is annoyed. Her painstakingly crafted tabletop game campaign was shot down. Her best friend is suggesting she try being more likable, and school running back Jack Orsino is the most lackadaisical student body president that she's ever seen, making her job as VP that much harder. Her favorite escape from the world is the MMORPG game 12th Night, but online spaces aren't exactly kind to girls like her. Girls who are extremely competent and have the swagger to prove it. So Vi creates a masculine alter ego, choosing to play as a knight named Cesario to create a safe haven for herself. But when a football injury leads Jack Orsino to the world of 12th Night, Vi is alarmed to discover their online alter egos, Cesario and Duke Orsino, are surprisingly well matched. And so basically they start to fall in love over the internet, but Jack doesn't know it's her. She knows it's him, but in real life, Jack is falling for Violet. So it's really good. It was very sweet, and the characters had real depth to them, and they dealt with real problems that teenagers deal with. So, huge fan. Finally, March, Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. This is a reread for me for a book club that I run for work. You'll hear that a lot in these videos. I adore this book. Ann Patchett is such a gifted writer, and I feel like this really did a great job of encapsulating the pandemic, and the feeling of trapped, the feeling of being trapped and feeling like your life is slipping away from you, and specifically in terms of Nell, the character Nell. If anybody has read Tom Lake, you'll get what I'm saying. The Center by Ayesha Manazir Siddiqui. A darkly comic speculative debut following an adrift Pakistani translator in London who attends a mysterious language school which boasts complete fluency in just 10 days, but at a secret, sinister cost. The twist in this literally dropped my jaw. I'm not exaggerating, I was listening to the audiobook as I was driving, and I literally was at a stoplight and was like, it was wild. So, I really recommend that one. House Cat by Christine Church. This is a nonfiction book about how to raise a house cat. I adopted a cat this month. Her name is Eleanor, and I'm obsessed with her. You saw her at the beginning of this video. And this book was an excellent crash course to indoor cats, albeit probably mostly out of date because it was published in like 2004, 2005. So, yeah. But it was a really good starter kit. Among the Janeites, A Journey Through the World of Jane Austen Fandom by Deborah Yaff. I read this one for a work project I'm working on, a program on Jane Austen, which I'm thrilled about. It was a fascinating chronicle of Jane Austen fans, as well as a memoir of the author's love of the author. Very good. Here we're getting into the juicy stuff. Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This was my favorite Ali Hazelwood book yet. I don't know what that says about me. Actually, I know exactly what it says about me. I loved the crossover characters. I loved the sports aspect. I was on the swim team as a kid. And I loved the emotional work that Scarlett undertook in order to be in a relationship. So if you like Ali Hazelwood and you haven't gotten around to this one yet, I really recommend this one. Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Yes, I'm still in Iron Flame. And bro, this took me, no joke, 2 months to finish. It didn't have the zing of the first book for me, possibly because it wasn't really in the war school setting, which I really enjoyed. I love school, so I love school settings. And I found the miscommunication between Violet and Xaden so frustrating. But there's a huge twist literally in the last 5 pages that gives me hope for Onyx Storm, so I need to start that, post haste. Much Ado About Hating You by Sarah Eshavari Smith. This was a arc that I got from NetGalley. Thank you so much, NetGalley, for this arc, and for the publisher. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This had an awesome premise. Basically, it's about a Shakespeare professor who writes Shakespeare fan fiction and the auditor that's coming in to slash his department to shreds. And it had an awesome premise, imperfect execution. Quite a few mistakes, like missing words, wrong words, etc. And it was repetitive in terms of between the fan fiction, which is included in the book, and the actual text. Aiden was kind of unprofessional. Micah was a badass though, and I think this author has a ton of potential, but could use some work on her craft. Finally, the last book of the quarter one, The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley, and we ended with a bang. This is, if you are a Hermione fanfic reader at all, this is an adaptation, I think, of Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love by Is This Self-Care. So it is wickedly funny at every turn, even in the minutia. And I found the magic system to be incredibly well developed and totally absorbing. It's based on Old English and ley lines. It's super cool. And the vocabulary is stunning. Did you know that an abattoir is a slaughterhouse? Because I did not. Generally, the whole book is just whip smart. I want every romance I read to be like this one. Thank you so much to Berkeley Publishing House for this arc. I can't tell you how excited I was when I saw this in my inbox. It genuinely brought me to tears, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So, thank you. Alright, that is everything for the first 3 months of the year. Again, I am Catherine. This is Cat's Library. As you can see from these beautiful bookshelves that I built last month, and I am lusting over when I'm not at home, I'm thinking about these bookshelves. So, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please leave down below what your favorite book was of quarter one, and I love and appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for being here. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you very soon. Bye!